According to new reports, the Trump administration is considering forming a task force to look into the potential impact of the tariffs that they have put on China and, of course, the tariffs that China has put on us. In other words, Donald Trump wants to make sure that any of the ramifications of his trade war fall on somebody else. And that somebody else, according to these reports, is going to be J.D. Vance.
Donald Trump just threw J.D. Vance directly onto the global stage. After years of J.D. Vance disparaging Trump, guess who is suddenly stuck defending the world's most stupid tariffs like a child caught in a cookie jar? Spoiler alert, things aren't going well. The economy is on fire, and we're really just here for the wreckage. It's a masterwork of petty, vicious retaliation, with Trump sitting back like it's popcorn night while JD is being roasted.
Some terrible people being met with awful news themselves, and that includes those in the Trump administration, specifically J.D. Vance, who got what I might consider almost career-ending news from Donald Trump today with a new announcement that has thrown him under the bus in the most delicious way. So if you have been upset with how bad the news has been, be excited because JD just got some himself.
When J.D. Vance wakes up every morning, brushes his teeth, adjusts his "I'm a serious politician" tie, and gets ready to embarrass himself by defending Donald Trump's economic genius, which, if we're being honest, mostly consists of burning piles of money while shouting "America first" like a drunk guy at a minor league baseball game. It's the epitome of living the dream. Trump's most recent act of political hazing was giving J.D. Vance the smoking debris of his brilliant trade war and telling him to go defend this dumpster fire, buddy.
The Trump administration not only is considering forming this task force, but they are going to, if it comes to fruition, put Vice President J.D. Vance in charge of it and effectively make him what they're calling the tariff czar.
J.D. Vance's life is now quite miserable, despite the tariffs shockingly being in place, and Trump's strategy of imposing tariffs on China, which involves letting a raccoon operate a nuclear reactor. He spent his entire career acting as the voice of forgotten America and ended up serving as Donald Trump's crash test dummy for a tariff policy that somehow makes farmers, manufacturers, consumers, and probably some dogs and cats extremely miserable. Europe and everyone who sneezed incorrectly have seen predictable consequences. Prices are up, exports are down, small firms are curled up beneath their desks, and many are saying, "This is fine," as the structure burns down.
A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations.
And JD is the fortunate one still in possession of the bag. I would sacrifice my soul for power. Vance, it's almost poetic to realize that JD wasn't always Donald Trump's go-to emotional support politician, clutching his leg like a lost puppy. No, once upon a time, JD was essentially hosting book clubs devoted to analyzing how dreadfully terrible Trump was. He called him every name in the dictionary short of sentient dumpster fire, and he essentially constructed his entire public persona around being that dim-witted intellectual who genuinely despises Trump. Fast forward, and he is now polishing Trump's shoes on national television.
And so one of the takeaways is not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history, it's that Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
If you like it, please subscribe. Fast forward to today, when JDs are attempting to persuade Americans that Trump's economic policies are truly brilliant. They say things like, "Yeah, you're paying 3 times as much for eggs, but consider all the patriotic suffering you're doing. It's character building. You really couldn't make this stuff up, no matter how hard you tried. If it weren't so incredibly cringeworthy, JD's political transformation would almost be impressive. It's like he's in a performance art piece called How Low Can You Go? And watching him defend Trump's disastrous tariffs is like watching a dog attempt to explain quantum physics. Confusing, sad, and strangely fascinating.
And my biggest problem with Trump, and there are many, many things to pick out, but my biggest problem with Trump is that his message to the right, especially the white working class of which I came from, is anti-conservative and in some ways anti-American. It's fundamentally that the deck is so stacked against you that unless I'm the president, nothing that you do will change your life's outcomes. I think it's wrong, and I think it's very self-destructive.
By the way, American consumers were more negatively impacted by Trump's tariffs than, let's face it, J.D. Vance's dignity hasn't recovered since you requested a new refrigerator in 2020. Unfortunately, steel prices increased more quickly than a Trump social collapse. I hope you have fun spending twice as much on washing machines and soda cans. As growing costs cause financial confusion for the average American, imagine having to sell a kidney to pay for clean socks. J.D. Vance staggered onto the scene prepared to explain everything, but instead of admitting that tariffs were essentially just a patriotic tax hike in a red hat, he was in full spin mode, babbling about economic sovereignty like a broken MAGA chatbot on its last breath. Every word he said sounded like it had been programmed by a think tank that believes basic economics is some woke liberal conspiracy. In an attempt to sell the idea that empty wallets and exorbitant appliance costs were actually a victory for America, JD twisted himself into a pretzel. If economic sovereignty entails bankrupting your own people while acting like it's a 4D chess move, then congrats. The JD mission was completed.
If you go back a little bit, Lawrence, remember during the first Trump administration, everybody said that Trump's tariffs were going to be inflationary back then. What actually happened? We had 1.5% inflation. We had the fastest growing economy in a generation, and we had the beginning of a manufacturing renaissance in the United States of America. Then, of course, we had 4 terrible years of the Biden administration. But I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on 2 principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture.
By the way, unless your idea of greatness includes soaring costs and empty wallets, Trump's tariffs didn't exactly restore America's greatness. During his embarrassing political flip-flop in 2020, J.D. Vance's dignity hit the ground. Steel prices were skyrocketing. Lumen was more expensive than Trump's hair on a windy day. And let's not even talk about washing machines. If you wanted clean socks after those tariffs, you practically had to refinance your house and sell a kidney. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance, bless his heart, is out there spinning like a malfunctioning MAGAT chatbot, babbling endlessly about economic sovereignty as if he's the reincarnation of Adam Smith. After a few too many beers, every time he opens his mouth, it's like watching a malfunctioning Roomba smashing into walls while chanting buzzwords. It is not cognizant of economic sovereignty. Trump's economic acumen left average Americans paying the price for his ego-driven trade war, despite the fact that American jobs are subject to high tariffs. However, JD could elaborate on how spending twice for a refrigerator is truly patriotic.
The sad truth is, we don't actually know if Donald Trump is so deeply that he believes what he is saying. I leave it to you to decide which would be better, a president stupid enough to think that foreign countries pay American tariffs, or a president who knows the truth but lies about it. It's one or the other.
Returning once more before the full-body soul transplant, J.D. Vance was practically hosting nightly TED talks with titles like Donald Trump, the human wrecking ball of civilization. At the time, Vance talked about Trump as though he were describing a biblical play complete with frogs, locusts, and infrastructure collapse. Yes, it feels like a fevered dream now, but there was a time when he couldn't stop pointing out how Trump was essentially a flaming dump fire rolling downhill into American democracy.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. You think about the slogan, "Make America Great Again." The implication is that America isn't great right now, and if you're very unhappy about your life, that's going to resonate with Trump. But as somebody who doesn't like Trump myself, I understand where Trump's voters come from, but I also don't like Trump himself, and that's made me realize that maybe I'm not quite part of either.
The administration is considering forming a task force to look into the potential impact of the tariffs that they have put on China, and of course the tariff that China has put on us. In other words, Donald Trump wants to make sure that any of the ramifications of his trade war fall on somebody else. according to these reports, is going to be J.D. Vance. The Trump administration not only is considering forming this task force, but they are going to, if it comes to fruition, put Vice President J.D. Vance in charge of it and effectively make him what they're calling the tariff czar.
But because if life isn't a relentless sitcom with terrible writers, it's nothing. JD had a revelation. If your goal is to sit in posh offices and wear MAGA hats, honesty and integrity are poor ideas. Ironically, he pulled out the most embarrassing public U-turn since Millie Vanille's lip-syncing fiasco, but with much more cringe-worthy results. As Paul Revere on Red Bull, he warns America against Trump 1 minute, and then with what dignity he still has left, he shines Trump's shoes. JG, who is essentially Trump's personal water boy, is out here making it look like an Olympic sport while attempting to persuade voters that being irritated by tariffs is somehow a brave act of patriotism. It's a masterpiece in selling your soul for a campaign check.
The incompetence is clear. Donald Trump doesn't know what the end goal of his tariff plan is. He doesn't know if it's bringing manufacturing back, which isn't going to happen because he lost manufacturing jobs in his first administration. It's not certainly to bring prices down. The opposite is in fact happening. And I know when Donald Trump says that he's having great conversations with China, what he means is he's stressed because no one is returning his calls.
Real folks are standing in grocery store aisles doing double takes at their receipts, realizing that eggs cost more than a car payment, while Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are busy dressing up as advocates of the forgotten American. Bread seems like a luxury good, and half of the customers are beginning to question whether they have unintentionally signed a lease to live under a third world dictatorship. Inflation is so bad that even the dollar store is starting to look like a high-end boutique. In the heartland, the small towns that Trump once claimed to care about are becoming ghost towns faster than J.D. Vance can lose another shred of self-respect. The diners are closing, the factories are deserted, and the only new industry booming is the for-sale sign industry. What about the farmers, the salt of the earth, who Trump wrapped himself in like a human American flag, selling off their land, their equipment, and even their dreams piece by piece, just to stay?
Powell warned that Trump's tariffs could bring inflation down and could bring greater inflation and slow economic growth. He didn't use the exact word, but what he was describing is stagflation. Investopedia defines stagflation as an economic condition characterized by slowing economic growth, high unemployment, and rising prices or inflation simultaneously. It's a 1, 2, 3 punch, although at least for now we continue to have low unemployment. But inflation and a recession, which then results in higher unemployment, at the same time, that's very difficult.
While this is going on, J.D. Vance is standing in a dilapidated town square with pride, waving a dejected little American flag like a guy at a birthday party where nobody showed up to yell, "Everything's fine," to no one at all. It's like watching a house burn down, while the person who lit the match maintains that it's only a little tubey. At least the press conferences have catchy slogans. GD appears to be a man who has just been told that he must defend the flat earth theory in front of an astronaut panel. So why are families spending $12 on a gallon of milk? Is one of the softball questions reporters throw at him. And GD's response, which is more desperate than the previous strategic decoupling of economic independence, is a word salad so thick that it takes him a sheet to get through every talking point. Freedom isn't free. In other words, please don't ask me direct questions. I'm dying up here. And while at all, Trump is nowhere to be seen. He's either golfing or suing a bakery for creating a cape that incorrectly depicted him, while J.D. Vance is left on stage, jeered by the same people you once claimed to support.
In his campaign, Donald Trump promised that America would be climbing the respect charts again.
Under my leadership, America soon will be respected again. America will be feared and respected again.
Oh, yeah. Remember Trump's garbage era when he wore a garbage costume and drove up in a garbage truck and was like, yum, 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 trash. Anyway, he's going to get us respected again. And there's nothing the world respects more than a good old-fashioned trade war. Let's see how that's going over, starting with China.
And it will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't.
We don't care.
Ooh, damn. I didn't know China also manufactured catty bitches.
A viral AI-generated video is making fun of U.S.-China trade relations as tensions escalate. Trump and Elon Musk and J.D. Vance making Nike sneakers. There are also viral videos of Trump sitting behind a sewing machine in a factory. All of this rife on Chinese social media.
Wow. This is scary. I did not think AI had the power to show Donald Trump doing skilled labor.
JB, let's just name it that. Not even very well. Vance is laying in a bed he created with his own hands. No one pulled him into the MAGA clown car as he was screaming and kicking. And no one put a pistol to his head and said, "Hey JD, why don't you fully destroy your dignity and credibility so that you can try to get a job under Donald Trump's table?" He did that on his own, like a big boy making big boy mistakes. He went from saying that Trump would be the end of the world to essentially offering to carry Trump's golf clubs, while singing his praises like a deranged fanboy. And now he's getting exactly what he signed up for, a ringside seat to the slow, humiliating implosion of his own political career. The best part is that even the hardcore MAGA base, who would normally support a soggy ham sandwich if Trump endorsed it, aren't buying JD's act anymore. Instead, they're watching him attempt to defend Trump's disastrous tariffs and even flinching. Nah, Chief, this ain't it. The collective eye rolls are practically audible from a great distance. JDs are out there delivering frantic TED speeches about how tariffs are beneficial for farmers who are no longer able to sell their products, and the spectators are merely clumsily shuffle their feet in confusion about how quickly they can find the exit. Congratulations, JD.
The tariff charged on Chinese imports is going to be above 50% now. That is a huge, huge number. And I think Donald Trump and the people around him accept the sudden imposition of these new taxes on imports at these high levels is going to cause economic disruption. There's no way it can't. He would argue in 4-5 years' time, maybe, it being Donald Trump, he'll say 6-12 months, to avoid these tariffs, there will be more manufacturing in the United States. But you've really got to question some of this. There's going to be a huge tariff on Vietnam now. 50% of the trainers Nike sell in the US are made in Vietnam. They're going to become a lot more expensive because of these tariffs. Why does the administration want to bring t-shirt manufacturing back to the United States? Because that's the logic of their argument. They're being ripped off by buying t-shirts from abroad. You can make t-shirts in America. They'll be a bit more expensive. But it's not just that it'll mean more expensive t-shirts for consumers, which is not a good thing. It's that you're going to have to deploy economic resources.
God bless him. JD continues to try. In every interview, rally, and press release, he insists that economic suffering is actually a sign of economic patriotism, that empty shelves are a sign of strength, that higher prices are a badge of honor, and that it's performance art. At this point, poor performance art, like a mime trapped in an invisible box. Only this time, the box is JD's crumbling credibility. For his part, Trump doesn't give a damn if JD breaks down in 1,000 depressing fragments while attempting to defend tariffs. It's almost Shakespearean, a man who compromised all he claimed to believe in order to get power, only to be humiliated and abandoned by the same person he sold out to. But Trump will simply put a mission accomplished flag over the wreckage and go on to the next sucker. Vance is the depressing mascot of an economic policy that was never intended to benefit anyone other than the person who came up with it. And he is not only supporting tariffs, he is defending the indefensible.
Looking at the op-ed that you wrote, Trump's trade war on reality, you know, you're blunt and you use words you don't always use. You say capricious, destructive, and dumb way, talking about how Trump is using American power tonight.
This may be the biggest economic policy-making error of my lifetime. I've never seen anything like this. And you know, you are seeing the verdict already in from the markets. And the stock market is not the economy, Aaron, but the stock market, the bond market, the commodity markets, everybody is signaling that this was a disaster and it's going to be more pain to come. There's only 2 occasions I can recall.
The U.S. economy is suffering. Families are having to choose between petrol and groceries when small companies close. Additionally, JD Vance is yelling, "This is what winning looks like." The next time you hear JD Vance babble about nationalist growth strategies or strategic economic realignment, it's just depressing. It's not winning. It's not even losing with dignity. Because he believed there was power in it, this man once knew better, once told the truth about Trump, and then tossed his own truth under the bus. Now, the only thing beneath that bus The best part is that everything is unfolding in real time for everyone to see, with J.D. Vance's political career collapsing faster than Trump's